The millionaire becomes a janitor to find true love. They say, money can't buy happiness. Sure, it can buy things. The latest car, the biggest house, vacations to places you can't even pronounce. But happiness, that's a different story. I didn't know that until I hit 25, and my world, full of yachts and champagne brunches, started to feel like a prison. My name's Paul, and I grew up rich, stupid rich. The kind of rich where people only seem to talk to you because they see dollar signs. It's not that I didn't try to find love. I did, multiple times actually. But the problem wasn't finding women. No. The problem was that the women I found didn't care about me. They cared about the wealth attached to me. My family's money. My trust fund. My cars. And I wasn't some oblivious guy who couldn't tell the difference. It hurt. Badly. Take Leah, for example. We met at a friend's wedding. She was stunning, elegant in a black dress, hair pulled back, looking like someone who belonged in my world. And for a while, she had me convinced that she was different. We clicked, we talked for hours about life, our dreams, our families. But it didn't take long for her true colors to show. A couple of dates in, she started hinting about extravagant trips. Oh, Paul, we should totally go to Paris. Business class, of course. And bringing up how wonderful it'd be to spend summers in my family's vacation homes. I could feel my stomach turn every time she mentioned it. I remember sitting there one evening, watching her swipe through pictures of luxury resorts on her phone, and I knew. I was just a wallet to her, not a man. Breaking it off with Leah wasn't hard, but the realization that all the women I dated were the same. That was the gut punch. Chapter 1, Time for a Change. It hit me like a slap in the face one day, while I was sitting in my ridiculously oversized living room. If I kept dating the way I always had, using my family's money as a backdrop, I'd never find someone who loved me for me. I needed a change, but not just a haircut or a new hobby. No, I needed something radical, something that would tear me away from the gold diggers who had been circling me like vultures. What if I pretended to be poor? What if I stripped away all the wealth, all the glamour, and just lived as a regular guy for a while? I didn't want to play dress up or go to charity events in a budget suit. I wanted to be a regular guy, to know what it felt like to struggle, to work hard, to get by without the cushion of my trust fund. The idea grew on me, and soon I found myself digging through my closet for anything that didn't scream rich kid. My wardrobe became a mix of faded jeans, plain t-shirts, and beat-up sneakers. But that wasn't enough. I needed to dive deeper. I needed to experience life on the other side, not just play pretend. I decided to downgrade. Way downgrade. I found an old, rundown apartment in a neighborhood miles away from the luxury I was used to. The kind of place where the walls were thin, the floors creaked, and the rent was low enough to make me cringe. But I was committed. Moving into that apartment was like stepping into a different world. The fancy cars were replaced by beat-up sedans, and the perfectly manicured lawns were swapped out for cracked sidewalks and overgrown patches of grass. And the neighbors? Well, let's just say they didn't exactly roll out the welcome mat. I was met with suspicious glances, as if they could smell the privilege on me. The noise was relentless. Sirens blaring, people shouting on the streets at all hours, babies crying through paper-thin walls. It was a far cry from my insulated, silent world of wealth. Chapter 2, The Janitor Gig. I couldn't just stop at living in a new neighborhood. I needed a job. And not just any job. I needed something far from the corporate world, far from anything that would tip people off to my real background. That's when I saw the ad. Janitor needed for office building. Perfect. I showed up at the interview in my new look. Basic clothes, sneakers that had seen better days. The hiring manager barely looked up as he interviewed me, more focused on his computer screen than anything I had to say. He asked me a couple of standard questions, probably just to see if I could hold a mop. And within 15 minutes, I was hired. My first week as a janitor was humbling, to say the least. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine me, a guy who'd never so much as taken out his own trash, scrubbing floors, cleaning bathrooms, and hauling garbage bags bigger than me. The first time I had to clean a toilet, I gagged. The smell, the grime. It was nothing like the pristine bathrooms I'd grown up with. But I stuck with it. People didn't see me. I wasn't Paul, the man from a wealthy family. I was Paul, the janitor, invisible. The office workers barely acknowledged my existence. They tossed their half-eaten lunches in the trash and leave their coffee spills for me to clean up without a second thought. It was like I wasn't even human. And let's talk about pay. The first time I got my paycheck, I had to laugh. I was earning in a month what I used to spend on a weekend trip. My bank account had plenty in it, but I lived off my janitor's salary, forcing myself to budget, to stretch every dollar. And let me tell you, that was tough. No more fancy dinners. No more impulsive shopping sprees. I learned to appreciate the value of things. How every dollar counted. How hard people worked just to get by. But here's the crazy thing, I started to enjoy it. As much as I hated the dirty work, there was something satisfying about doing an honest day's work. I'd never felt that before. I learned to respect the janitors, the cleaners, the people who keep the world functioning without a thank you. Cheers to you for watching this video up until this point. Please subscribe. Chapter 3, Joan. It was about 3 months into my janitor gig when I met Joan. She worked as an accountant in the building. And unlike everyone else, she noticed me. Really noticed me. One day I was cleaning the break room trying to figure out how to unclog the coffee machine, which, by the way, I have zero skills for. When she walked in, she smiled at me. Not the fake, polite smile people gave to the help, but a real, genuine smile. Need some help with that? She asked, her voice soft but confident. I looked up, my hands covered in coffee grounds. Yeah, I think I broke it. She laughed, and for a second I forgot about my cover story, about my whole plan. Joan had that effect on me. She made me feel like just a regular guy. We got to talking, and over the next few weeks, we kept running into each other. Every time she'd stop to chat, ask me how I was doing, and genuinely listen to my answer. She didn't care that I was just a janitor. Joan was different. She was humble, kind, and had this quiet strength that drew me in. She never talked about material things, never hinted at wanting more than a simple life. She treated me with the kind of respect I hadn't experienced in my world of wealth. Chapter 4, The Truth. I started falling for her hard, but as our relationship grew, so did my guilt. I was living a lie, and sooner or later, I knew I'd have to come clean. One night, as we sat in a small diner, a far cry from the high-end restaurants I used to frequent, I knew I couldn't keep up the charade any longer. Joan, I started, my heart racing. There's something I need to tell you. She looked at me, her brow furrowing slightly. What is it? I took a deep breath. I'm not really poor. I mean, I've been living like this for the past few months, but it's not my real life. I come from a wealthy family, I wanted to see if someone could love me for me, not for my money. For a moment, she didn't say anything. My heart pounded in my chest, waiting for her to get angry, to walk out, to be just like Leah and all the others. But then she smiled, a soft, understanding smile. "I knew there was something different about you," she said. "But I don't care about the money, Paul. I care about who you are, and I always have." Chapter 5. What Really Matters. Joan and I kept seeing each other, and over time, I came to realize something that changed my life forever. The value of a person isn't measured in what they have, but in who they are. I spent so much of my life trapped in a world where money defined everything. But it wasn't until I stepped outside of that world that I understood what truly matters. I didn't just find love in Joan, I found myself. While life can never be really perfect, Joan brought immense value to my life in ways I do not think any other woman could have. I now live a happier, more fulfilled life. What would you be willing to give up to find true happiness? How do material possessions influence the way we interact with others? Is it possible to truly find love in a world dominated by superficial values? Please tell me in the comments what you think. Thank you for watching this video. Please check out other similar stories on this channel and subscribe. Cheers. Have a good one.